Russia's war in Ukraine could push up to 49 million people into famine or famine-like conditions because of its devastating impact on global food supply and prices, the United Nations has said, in the latest dire warning over food insecurity. With its fertile soil and sprawling agricultural lands, Ukraine has long been described as one of the world's breadbaskets. But Russia's unprovoked assault is now putting a huge strain on Ukraine's food production and exports. The ripple effects are being felt around the world. Russia's blockade of Ukrainian ports has already raised global food prices and threatens to cause a catastrophic food shortage in parts of the world, the UN said. For people around the world, the war, together with the other crises, is threatening to unleash an unprecedented wave of hunger and destitution, leaving social and economic chaos in its wake, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said Wednesday. What is happening? The Russian invasion has affected Ukraine's entire food production and supply chain, from sowing to harvesting to exports. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, estimates that between 20% and 30% of Ukraine's agricultural land will remain either unplanted or unharvested this year because of the war. That's partly because large swaths of Ukraine's agricultural land, around half of the area planted with winter wheat and about 40% of the area planted with rye, were under Russian occupation in March, disrupting the sowing season. But the war is also causing worker shortages, because of the vast numbers of people who have fled their homes or become involved in the volunteer units of Ukraine's armed forces. International sanctions imposed against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine have also had an impact on global supplies of fuel, fertilizer and produce. Ukrainian authorities, and some international officials, have accused Russia of robbing the country of grain and other commodities in areas it occupies. Denis Marchuk, deputy chairman of the Ukrainian Agrarian Council Public Union, said in a statement on Wednesday that Russia has stolen about 600,000 tons of grain from Ukrainian farmers. He said the grain was stolen from occupied regions of southern Ukraine and then transported to ports in the Russian-occupied territory of Crimea, specifically Sevastopol, adding it is then transported to the Middle East. The Kremlin has denied the allegations, calling them fake news. Yet on Wednesday, the leader of the Moscow-backed military administration for the occupied portion of Ukraine's southern Zaporizhia region boasted about train cars full of Ukrainian grain departing from the Russian-occupied city of Melitopol to Crimea. Speaking on Solovyev Live, an online video platform, Yevhen Belitsky made it clear the plan is to ramp up these exports further. It can be predicted that in the near future these deliveries will be increased hundreds of times, he said. Satellite photos of the Crimean port of Sevastopol provided by Maxar Technologies last month appeared to show Russian ships being loaded up with Ukrainian grain. Another set of satellite images revealed that one of the ships arrived in the Syrian port of Latakia last month, its second trip within 4 weeks. In normal times, Ukraine would export around 3/4 of the grain it produces. According to data from the European Commission, about 90% of these exports were shipped by sea, from Ukraine's Black Sea ports. Russia is currently blocking maritime access to the Black Sea ports held by Ukraine, meaning that even the grain that is still under Ukrainian control cannot be exported to the many countries that rely on it. Ukraine has tried to boost its rail exports of grain to make up for some of the lost capacity, but that's proving challenging because of logistical issues. For example, Ukraine's trains run on slightly wider tracks than those in most of Europe, which means that the grain has to be moved from one set of wagons to another at the border.